Hey everybody, welcome to this video. I'm Iris, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about what it means to surrender versus succumbing to our doubts and fears and insecurities and depression and being in that dark space and basically surrendering everything that is no longer working in your life, that is causing you to fall into this dark space. So we're going to talk about the difference between succumbing to it and surrendering to it. And I'm also going to share a single resource that I used that began to change everything in my life and help me to move through what I call my dark night of the soul. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. It helped to pull me out of my depression. It helped to heal my past. It helped me to develop this sense of peace and calm within myself, even though my external circumstances and my perceptions of those circumstances hadn't necessarily changed yet. And eventually this resource and this surrendering to this resource, and some of you might be getting an idea of what this resource is, eventually things began to shift and change, and new opportunities and synchronicities started to fall into place, including new friendships and new relationships. So a little bit of background about why I know about what I know about this topic is because in 2017, my life started seriously spinning and spiraling out of control. A long-term relationship had absolutely run its course, and there are a whole bunch of fear and anxiety around that. I'd lost a very lucrative career, and I lost all my money, and I had already started to have like a serious drinking problem, but all of these combined kind of, perpetuated more of the same of needing to be able to cope and just to feel better. So suffice it to say that my drinking problem actually became a lot worse. And I grasped at anything I could to hold on to any type of stability, and there was just nothing. I could never get any traction on anything, and I desperately clung to everything I knew, and yet nothing I knew was working, and I had no clue what to do. I didn't know how to solve this problem. I didn't know how to work through this problem. I had no clue what I was doing. I had zero clues on who I was, because everything I was, or that I had identified with or had attached myself to, was now no longer there in my life. And so it was a really, really scary place, and I clung to anything that I could, but nothing worked, as I said. And that's because I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to let that all go. And you can just well imagine that when you're in that place of everything being stripped from your life and you're desperately trying to cling on to something, you're basically letting go of everything that you've always known and believed to be true about who you are. And so what I had to learn to do was surrender. That's not always easy, because as humans, we don't often realize it, but we actually do very much try to control and finesse our circumstances in our life to make it work for us. But because of what I was going through, which was my spiritual awakening and waking up to myself and beginning that process of rising to a higher level of consciousness, I had to learn to let all of that go. I had to learn how to surrender. Let's look at what surrendering means and look at succumbing, like surrender and succumbing. When I talk about surrendering, What I mean is not giving in to the fear, the panic, the trying to figure it out, the depression, all of that. It's not like you're raising a white flag and saying, okay, enemy, come in and take me away because I got nothing, I give up, right? That is actually succumbing to the depression, to the darkness. And that's not what I'm talking about here. We develop this sense of, how do I get through this? I have no idea what to do. And so we begin to believe that there's just no way through this, that we're going to be in this dark place and this depression and riddled with all of this fear and anxiety for the rest of our lives. But that's actually not true at all. There is actually a way through this. So I mentioned that we as humans try to control and finesse our circumstances. And when we find ourselves in this place of the dark night of the soul and beginning that awakening process, what's happening is that there is a little, what I call a little fixer protector in us. And our little fixer protector is often referred to as our inner child. And it can even be our inner teen or tween or even young adult. But quite often, this inner fixer protector is holding on to unhealed trauma, abandonment issues, rejection issues, terrible heartbreak, terrible loss, all kinds of things. And this general feeling of unworthiness and really not being understood and really feeling unloved. And maybe you can relate to this in some way yourself. But really, what's been happening in this part of you that does want to control and finesse so that you feel safe in the world, what happens is that little fixer protector is actually trying to navigate adulting from a very wounded place. And you can see that because you're going through this spiritual awakening, everything that you used to do to cope and manage with your life, it doesn't work anymore. And so we have to learn to detach and let go of the attachments to those things. So when I talk about handing over control or surrendering control, it really is the control of the way that we try to self-protect and to manipulate and finesse our circumstances and try and do it the way that we've always done it, because the way we've always done it is not the way through this process. Why isn't this process working anymore? Well, I already talked a little bit about why that process isn't working, and it's because you're at the doorway to your own spiritual awakening. You're awakening to the true essence of who you are and beginning to have everything that has remained unhealed from your past start to bubble up to the surface to be healed. It's why the way we used to navigate through challenges, inner challenges, it's why it doesn't work anymore. And the second thing is, and this is really interesting, when we think of problem solving, we think of, how do I work through this problem based on everything I know from my past? So we can't look to our future for solutions because that hasn't happened. The future hasn't happened yet. So we only have a point of reference from our experiences in our past. And if our past experiences have been riddled with disappointments and heartbreak and people that have hurt us and people that have let us down and all kinds of traumatic experiences, you can well imagine that there are no solutions for us to navigate through this, because our experiences from our past don't provide any new perspective on how you can move through this problem. Albert Einstein said it beautifully in his quote that you can't fix a problem from the same mindset that created it, right? So you can begin to see why what you used to do doesn't work anymore. A lot of people can really become very disheartened and begin to lose hope and faith that they'll ever see sunny days. But I don't want you to lose hope. I want you to hang on to a flicker of hope that there is absolutely 100% a way through this. You are not alone on your journey to ascension. So many people are starting to wake up now, and a lot of people are really doing this deep inner healing. And it's a beautiful thing, but it's also a really scary thing. But I want to reassure you that I have been through this process, and my process was really painful, and your process is going to be your process, and your process is going to take as long as it takes, because we like to have a when will this be over type of thing. Allow yourself to go with the flow and let it come up as it's ready to come up. How to surrender, and who on earth are we surrendering to? We're not surrendering to anybody on earth. I'll tell you that much, okay? As you may have been able to tell, I'm a spiritual person. One thing that I have always believed is that we are so much more than just our physical bodies. I've also believed that there is something much greater than us that loves us unconditionally, that has always been there for us, always guiding us, always whispering in our ear, always helping us, always trying to offer us love and comfort and support. And this loving presence, you can call this God. That's what I call this loving presence, or you can call it the universe. You can call it spirit, but it is a spiritual presence, the isness of everything that has ever been and that will ever be. And it provides us unconditional love every single moment in our life. We are never walking this path and this life experience alone. We've got like a whole spiritual team cheering us on and being there for us. That's my belief. So how do you surrender? The easiest way for me to describe the surrendering process is through a story. So imagine a young child. Most young children, they're afraid of the dark and they're afraid of monsters under the bed. So imagine this child wakes up in the middle of the night and runs to their parents' room, and their parents scoop them up and put them in between them in the bed and cuddle them and kiss them and reassure them and hug them and tell them everything's okay and everything will be okay, and really comfort this child. What happens in that moment is that that child is surrendering the fear to the parents, because the parents can handle it and the parents can provide that comfort to that child. So it's no different than when you start to hand over your pain, your anxiety, your fear, your depression, everything that you feel that just doesn't work, surrendering it by having a conversation with God, with the universe, to say, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am so scared. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I can't figure out how to stop drinking. I can't figure out how to stop doing such and such a thing. I don't know how to be a better ... fill in the blank. I just don't know what to do. And can I just give this all to you, because I don't know anymore? And so that's what I started to do. If you are at the beginning of your spiritual awakening and you don't quite understand the concept of God and the universe and this ever-loving presence that is always around us, you might not understand it all. And so when you surrender and you begin talking to this presence, it might feel awkward and uncomfortable. And that's okay. Let the process be the process. Don't judge anything, but practice doing this. And what you'll discover when you practice having this conversation with God, you develop a relationship with that loving presence. And over the course of time, what happens is your shoulders start to fall. You start to feel a little less burdened, a little less heavy, and a lot more lightness. Just because you begin having these conversations with God or the universe doesn't mean that your external circumstance changes in that red hot second. But what it does do is it begins the process of lightening your load. When you lighten your load, you are making space for healing to happen. You're making space for new people, new circumstances, new opportunities to show up in your life so that you can move forward. All of these things come forward for you so you can heal and move through this process. When we are so weighed down and heavy with so much despair and confusion and depression, there's no space for anything new to come in. And so this process of having this conversation with God in your mind or out loud, it doesn't matter. When you start to practice this, you will feel lighter. You will feel unburdened. You will feel more calm. I want to reiterate, it's not a one and done thing. You have to practice this, because not only are you learning to face yourself, you're learning to surrender to the flow of life. And it's a beautiful thing, and it is a process. So this might be your starting point. This was my starting point, and very soon after, I added on a morning routine. Now, I am a big fan of morning routines. Morning routines help you connect to yourself. It helps you connect to God. It also really helps you set yourself up to move through your day with a lot of peace and calm. If you're interested, I talk about my morning routine in the video called Unlock Your Best Day Morning Routine Secrets. And I'll just tell you right now, they're not really secrets at all. They are things that I incorporated into my daily practice. And I still practice a morning routine, although my morning routine changes based on what my needs are at any given point in time. But I 100% have a morning routine, and 100% of the time, that morning routine involves meditation and stillness. So hopefully this video has been helpful. If you want to dive a little bit deeper, I have a guide called How to Change Your Life by Loving Yourself. And this guide documents additional things that I incorporated into my life that helped me move through this process. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. You can grab that. And until the next video, take good care.